Hey everybody, Al Henry here, Johnny's daddy. Everybody enjoyed the last history lesson on the mortgage lifter tomato, so I thought I'd do another one here. And I've been looking into this particular tomato plant here. This is a Rutgers tomato here, and I know back when I was a little boy back in the 60s, this was my grandmother's favorite tomato, and she used this for everything, slicing on the table, making juice, canning, everything, sauce, everything. And all the other people in Shenandoah County did too. Now they did have like the mortgage lifters and the old German and a few tomatoes like this, but their go-to tomato was the Rutgers. And the Rutgers tomato, you would probably guess that it probably has something to do with Rutgers University up in New Jersey, and that's right. It was developed by Rutgers in the late 1920s, early 30s. And it was a wonderful tomato, and this is what is known as a Jersey tomato. You know, there are some tomatoes that are grown in different parts of the country that have a great reputation, and the Jersey tomato is one of them. And also the Hanover outside of Richmond was another tomato that was very well known. And that particular tomato at one time was bringing $4 and $5 a pound in the 1970s in New York. But sometimes when things become valuable, people start doing things that might not be quite kosher, like taking a red tomato and saying it's a Hanover and it's not, and then when people find out, they're pretty upset. So that was one thing that happened to the Hanover tomato. But the Rutgers tomato, like I said, was started in the early 1930s, and Rutgers had the help of Campbell's soup with the development of this tomato. And they were looking for a tomato that was balanced in flavor with acidity, and this was a big success. Along with Heinz and Hunt's and all the big manufacturers of tomato products, this was their tomato. And it spread over into the consumers to the point where probably I read that in the 40s and early 50s, the Rutgers tomato accounted for like 60 to 70% of all tomatoes that were planted in the United States. And at that time, New Jersey was really the tomato capital of the United States. They grew tomatoes and they processed them. But and it was a wonderful tomato. The tomato ripened from the inside out, and it stayed ripe for a while, a week or so, and it was very good. But after World War II, as you know, we became more industrialized and more prepared food, more canned food, you know, the tomato processors looked for a tomato that you know, would hold longer, had a tougher skin, and wouldn't get bruised as easy, and they found it. And this was also needed for the mechanical harvesters that were being used. So the Rutgers was a little bit too delicate for being used by mechanical harvesters. So the Rutgers tomatoes went to the sidelines, and they drifted apart, and they became crossed with all types of other different tomatoes, and the original variety basically disappeared. And you know, all the other tomato varieties, you know, progressed. Well, Rutgers University in the late 2006, 2010 area wanted to revive the Rutgers tomatoes to celebrate the 250-year anniversary of Rutgers University. And they didn't have any pure seeds. All the seeds had been crossbred with other varieties. But Campbell's Soup had saved some of the seeds in their seed library, and with the help of those seeds, they were able to come out with the original variety of the 1920s using these seeds that had been stored at Campbell's Soup, I guess for, what, about 80 years or so. So they brought back the original Rutgers tomatoes. And every year I get calls for 4 or 5 flats of Rutgers tomatoes from people whose parents and grandparents had used them for juice and canning and these kind of things. So it still is a wonderful tomato. And it's a little bit smaller tomato if you like that for a table tomato. So it still has relevance with us today, and it's really not an heirloom but it shares a lot of history with us for the last 100 years. So that's the story for this evening. And we got quite a few tomatoes here. We got a forest of tomatoes, all different varieties here, and they look great. They need a drink of water. I'll probably do that tonight. And if you want some big tomatoes, if you haven't got some planted yet, come and check these guys out. How much are these, Johnny? These big
$4.99.
$4.99. So they're a big plant. Come on down. We got some pepper plants too back here. We got some smaller ones that are about half the size. So come on down and get your tomatoes. And I'm going to look up the history on a couple other tomatoes and hopefully get that out in the next week or so. But read up on the Rutgers. It's kind of interesting and it's part of our history. Good night.